Hey there, this is Malorian, and this is going to be another Paintisode. So for those who haven't seen these before, this is one where basically we just sit down and paint. I'm going to be painting some stuff. I would suggest that you pull out some stuff because there won't be a lot to look at. I'll just be talking about different Warhammer, probably a little bit of War Machine stuff while we paint and just hang out. So do that stuff, and we'll see where we're at in an hour. So what I'll be working on today is actually a War Machine model. I brought some other stuff here because this could be faster than an hour, but we'll see how it goes. But it's Madeline Corbeau. It's not going to show up really well. You can always Google it. But really, Madeline is like the... she's a whore, and she gives you some extra powers on the battlefield where she seduces the enemy and all that fun stuff. So we're gonna be painting her up today, and then if I get her done fast, I get a bunch of these sword knights as well. They're this is a Signar unit, and Madeline, she's a mercenary model. So yeah, some of the stuff that was going on is I was working on those battle reports from Brawler Bash. And at first I didn't know if it really worked because I had to do the whole guess hammer thing. I'm running the tournament. I'm also recording the game. And the thing is, I mean, tournaments are so loud, you can't really use that audio. Oh no, this skin tone's almost gone. That'll be enough for her. But yeah, so basically I had to record over. But it's tough because I can't really tell all that's going on. But I think the first one worked out okay. I got one downvote, but most of the feedback I got was all very positive. And so I was looking forward to doing the other two videos, but I started working on the second one, and it failed. You know, I spent the half hour talking through it, and I mean, the little difference there between from when I do regular battle reports and when I do these is really I'm just talking for like half an hour, and if something screws up, well, I gotta do it all over again. And so that's what happened. I had an error message, so I go through the whole half-hour talk again. You know, my throat's starting to get sore and stuff, but whatever, we'll get this thing done. Another error message. So yesterday I just completely said screw you. I was gonna work on something else. And then today I went to go and finish it up and try it again, and I realized that my video is corrupted. Basically, I went through and I recorded the first game first, and I had enough time over lunch break that it can, because I mean, it's such a high quality. I'm saying this now, but I mean, there's other guys that run higher quality stuff. This is 1080. But it takes a while for the video to basically save and render in between. So I was only barely able to get the first one done, and then the second video had both game 2 and 3 all together, and it was just one massive 5-hour video, really huge and all that stuff. But what I'm trying to get to is that it's screwed up. And so really, I can't do those videos. Sorry, game 2 and 3 are just going to be gone. I could do a little summation here of what happened. I also covered it in my last Orc Tactical team, where I was talking about the Bretonnian Death Star. But really what happened is in game 2, it was a guy that I know fairly well with his Empire up against Bretonnia. And this guy doing Bretonnia, you know, he does this thing where normally, I think he does it as a challenge to himself, or maybe just to make things interesting. But he goes to every game basically just trying out a different army. He'll either quickly put together one quickly himself, or he borrows them. And yeah, you just basically never know what this guy is going to bring to the tournament. And so with him being, I've never seen him play Bretts before. So, you know, a new Brett player versus a veteran Empire player, you'd expect that, okay, the Bretts are going to be in a lot of trouble. He charges in early with his big unit into a large unit of swordsmen, gets countercharged by a big unit of halberdiers, and I'm thinking he just fell for it, right? He's gonna probably win the first round because he has a charge and all those kills and stuff. but then he's going to be done for. It's going to be over. What happens though is that he keeps on killing guys and keeps on killing guys, and what it turns out to be is that in that unit, oh, a little bit of flash, is that he actually has 7 characters. It's really crazy. He has the Faint Enchantress, which, she's good, but you don't want to take her in an event like that because she's monstrous cav, so she'll just get sniped out. But then of course, you have the mandatory BSB, and then he had a buttload of other paladins. Maybe one of them was a lord or something, but from what I could tell, they were mainly just paladins. So, wow, tons of points in there. They just ground out whatever unit they touched, and in the end, they massacre the Empire player pretty badly. It's very one-sided. I believe at the end of the game, all the Empire player had in a 3,000 point game was one cannon way down on the far side and some demigriffs. And the only reason why the demigriffs were alive is because they went off the board after they pursued some guys. So, or maybe they overran, whatever it was. So yeah, pretty crazy. Second game, he was now up against some dwarves, and the dwarf player had, he's played dwarves before, so he knows what he's doing. And in his list, in this tournament, you can put your lord on a monster from any book. It's pretty crazy. For the most part, it's actually a negative. If you go and you put your guy on a monster, it just means that when the cannon hits it, it's hitting the monster and the lord, so you're doing it more for fun. But what he did is he took his dwarf lord that was pretty awesome, probably close to the way I build it, because I know he was toughness 7 and all this stuff. But he was on a Frost Phoenix, so all of a sudden now things are also -1 strength against him. Things are always strike last. It's good to be on a monster that has a ward save, so it was going to be pretty dodgy and all this stuff. But the way it worked out, again, just could not beat that big Death Star unit, and eventually got ground down and lost the game. So, pretty crazy there. It's a little bit thrown off the number here because it's also there's objectives you can get. So if you capture one objective, you get an extra 50% victory points. If you get both, you double. So it's not straight up normal, but basically what happened is that Bretonnian player ended the day with 17,000 victory points. And that is nuts. That is a big chunk of points. So really crazy. I've noticed, though, a big thing that people don't do so much in this meta is they don't really redirect as much. That's a big reason why my Orc Savages do so well. Because, hey, if you're not going to redirect and take advantage of my frenzy, sure, that's no problem. I'll go around and kill all your stuff. Whatever. But, yeah, so, I mean, all it would take is a couple of throwaway units. You could start doing some double fleas. And all of a sudden that super unit wouldn't do as well. But, kudos to him to not only, winning a tournament like that with Bretonnia, but also doing it with, when you're not a normal Bretonnian player. It's one thing for a hardcore Bretonnian player to figure out some good combos, work the meta, and win the tournament that way, but just to walk in and say, let's try Bretonnia today, and then to be able to, put together, a Death Star type idea and make it work, that deserves some kudos there. So otherwise, some talk there on the actual setup for those battle reports. I kind of like the idea of doing that guess hammer, but yeah, it really it'd be better if I could just get the true sound. I've been watching more, especially the War Machine guys. It seems that it's a lot more prevalent there. So whereas for Warhammer, the default is basically how I do mine, right? Where you take the pictures and then you explain them and go through them and all that good stuff, right? You're starting to see more guys like Stephen Walker and Vidhammer kind of started it, where it's based off more of the actual real video, right? They have like a live action video. But for War Machine, that's a lot more common. Let's give her black hair. Yeah, black hair, blonde hair, something else. She is a whore. Maybe we could do some like fluorescent something. It's going to be based off of a pink dress. I think I'm going to go black hair. But so what I'm thinking doing now is maybe I want to try going that route as well. What it really means is that when it comes up, like if I was to do this in a tournament or something, it really needs to be in a separate room. Like I know when they did it there at Brawler Bash, they learned that really quick too, where their first game was kind of out in the middle of the store there, and they had a lot of noise to contend with and all the rest of it. And then from then on, what they did is they actually had in a separate room. So all of a sudden then it's a lot more controlled. It won't be as noisy. So that's probably what I need to do as well. But another part of it too is it's not like this webcam. Like the webcam does okay sound for like what I'm doing here. But what I've found is that when it's drawing in feedback from the rest of the room, it gets really grainy and it's not as good. So I'd probably need to pick up a new mic. It's something I've been talking about a long time. You know, I probably should have done that by now, going with the Yeti or something like that, but I don't know. I know there's other tournament organizers that after I did this with this tournament, they said, hey, you know, we'd like to showcase Albertans more. You're free to bring that here, you know, when we run our tournaments. So that'd be really cool. Nice to run that stuff there. I'm hoping this won't be too laggy. I'm saving a video in the background. That's the Org Tactical team, so it's using up a little bit of memories, but it should be all right. So far on the model, we're not got too far. We've just done the skin, the black hair, and black stockings, and so forth. For some reason, on this model here, you know, she's a whore. She's dressed up with all the, you know, pretty garb and all that stuff, like she's from the Elizabethan era. But for some reason, she really decided that her thighs are really important because that's the only place she has armor. She has armor plates on her thighs and then some on the shins. And they're not even so much in the front of the shins, which would be more functionally, you know, impressive. They're kind of like shifted a little bit more to the outside. So I don't know what this whole idea is, but apparently in the red light district, that's where, you know, nobody would stab for the heart or the throat or the face. It's always like right to the thigh, and then maybe like something to the shin. I don't know. Fantasy logic. Never question it because there is no rhyme or reason. Of course, you guys have probably noticed that I'm not painting fantasy stuff right now. I definitely have fantasy stuff to paint. It's just, I don't know. Whenever I look at it, it's a little bit more daunting. And for the War Machine, it always seems like it means so much more, right? If I go and paint up this Madeline Corbeau, like I said, she's a mercenary, and so she can work for several different armies, and, you know, I get a lot more out of it. Whereas, you know, if I go and I paint up a gyrocopter, it's only for my dwarves. There's also the idea, too, where, you know, I could be painting up another unit of 30 Iron Drakes, and that would be one unit, and it would take a long time, and, you know, it's a smaller percentage of the army, whereas if I paint 30 War Machine models, that means a whole army's painted. So, I don't know. Plus, I'm also at the point here, too, where I have a lot of War Machine that is painted. Oh, sorry, a lot of fantasy that's painted. So I don't really need, you know, at any time I could grab an Orc and Goblin army, Dwarf army, Lizardman army, and everything's ready. Whereas at the same time, if I want to go to a tournament for War Machine and be fully painted, I'm not as prepared there. I'm a little bit more limited. So that's what I'm kind of working on, trying to paint up what this should be another tournament list, because of course you get usually two lists in War Machine. Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's as high as three. On War Machine and just the general community, I noticed that Anthony isn't making his War Machine battle reports. That was kind of short-lived. Not really sure if he kind of stopped because, they weren't getting the same views or if there just weren't that much in his area. I know last time I was at Atomic Empire, they were selling War Machine there. Who knows, if maybe sometime I'd be doing Brawlers, and that'd be pretty awesome. If I got to go to okay, this year I'm going to be going to Brawlers. We're going to talk about something like Brawlers in a second. But, I'm doing the doubles tournament the one day, and then I'm doing the actual tournament the other day. It'd be really cool if they also ran like a War Machine tournament, and so it'd be like a triple header. Do War Machine one day, doubles tournament the next day, big huge real tournament the next one. That would be pretty awesome. But the thing with Brawlers that's kind of holding me back right now is I'm having some technical difficulties. Right now, Shimmer Gloom and I pretty much have our list nailed down for what we're going to be taking, so that's pretty awesome. But what you need to do is, of course, to hold down your spot, you need to pay, right? You can't just willy-nilly say, hold me a spot. I totally swear I'm coming from across the continent, right? But whenever I try and pay for Brawlers, it's just not working for me. It could be that, right now, this isn't, I'm recording this from home, but I have no internet here. Internet's really crappy. I don't even try using it anymore. I just do this stuff from work afterwards when I upload it and where I'm trying to pay for this stuff. But maybe the work filter is blocking whatever mechanism it goes through to pay online for on their website, but it's just not working right now. So getting a little bit worried there because I know it is filling up fast. They are going for like 130 people or something, but they're only going to keep the people that pay. So I got to get them there and pay pretty quick. But, that shouldn't be an issue, but I definitely don't want it to become an issue. Let's see what we'll paint on her next. But still trying to work on what my list would be. I have enough tournaments coming up first that that's a little bit further off, but definitely that's something I'm going to have to work on soon. Still playing around with some ideas of what I could bring. And again, I'm also kind of throwing around the idea, first of all, like I've said this a couple of times, I'm going there with Orcs and Goblins with the doubles tournament. So, if I'm bringing those models anyway, I might as well do Orcs and Goblins for the real tournament too. But they also have prizes for best in race. So, maybe it'd be nice to do dwarves because there wouldn't be as many dwarf players there. Possibly I could do wood elves. I don't know. We'll have to kind of see. It's probably best to stick with Orcs and Goblins or something like that. But, yeah. The other thing I got to figure out too is... of course, I'll be staying with Oncebitten. He's being really nice again. Let me stay with him. Does this guy have an armor-plated ass as well? No, that's got to be buttons. It's hard sometimes to tell whether something is rivets or buttons. When it's just like a flat area and then dots. I'm going to say those are buttons because a metal-plated ass would just be really, really out there. But anyway, staying with Oncebitten. Last year, I gave a Mega Minotaur. So that's the Minotaur that's set up to be with like the flying carpet and all that cool stuff. And so the question is, what do I do this year? One of the things I at first thought is he was talking about getting into Tomb Kings. And I got some Tomb Kings, a lot of extra stuff that I don't use because I got some deals and stuff. But I don't really know if he actually has any intention anymore in doing Tomb Kings. He kind of talked about it for a while, and now nothing's been happening. So I don't know if he's kind of gone away from that. So that's probably not the right idea. The other thing I'm kind of worried about too is now we're in a spot where we're really close to 9th. So if I make some sort of crazy character, let's say now I make a Bretonnian with a wizard hat, right? So it's like a Bretonnian on a hippogriff with a wizarding hat, right? Which would be awesome and all that great stuff. But let's say Ninth comes out and there's no more thing called a wizarding hat, right? That item is just gone. And that's a real threat. This could be the end of Super Orc and all the rest of it too. But I don't want to give a gift that's going to be useless, right? So I almost want to do something a little bit more generic, but it has to be different too, right? Like he already has a lot of stuff, and it clearly can't be something I paint. I mean, I'm doing this painting now, but this is, if Oncebitten was drunk out of his skull, uh, oh good, that thing's done saving. Uh, he would still be a far, far better painter than me. So, yeah, definitely I'm just going to be looking more at trying to convert something for him to paint. But looking at that then, I don't know. I was trying to think about different ones in Beastman. Maybe I could convert up a slug tongue. There's also that one other character that's like the maniac one that makes everybody stupid around you. Maybe I could convert something for that. So I'd love to hear your guys' ideas. If you have some ideas of what I can make, place that down below. That would be swell. If you're Oncebitten, hey, you can always do that too. Although I pretty much bet he doesn't listen to this. I've heard him say before, he's a professor, he's a busy guy, so he can't really listen to all this stuff. And so, hey, that's probably better. We can talk in secret, even though this is open to the interwebs. It's just you and me, right? This is it's a private affair here. But yeah, you know what? With the Bretonnians, it'd be nice to do something there, especially because he's been liking it more, but who knows what's going to go on with the Bretonnians, whether they're going to get a new book soon here. There's also not very many options. Like I said, if I'm going to be staying away from all those crazy 8th ed items that might not be there anymore, what do you really go with, right? I'm sure he already has a lord on a hippogriff. One of the ideas is I could take the new Empire Griffin and do something with that. So it's not just a little tiny guy. It's something really big and massive. But at the same time, I doubt he'd want to spend that many points on it, right? So I also want to try and find something he'd kind of use sometime. I guess Mega Minotaur was kind of bad for that too, where I think he's used him twice now, at least in the battle reports he posted. But, it'd be nice if I could make him something that's going to be a little bit more useful. So, trying to look into that. Let's see, what other... I mean, he has a dwarf army that's really his son's. But, I don't know. I don't know, man. We'll figure something out. But at the same time, going to be there playing against everybody else that's there as well, especially trying to get games against the other YouTubers, try and get revenge on Anthony. Nick and Chris from Long Island Gaming will be there. Not really sure who else will be able to make it. If you're a YouTuber, let me know. I mean, of course I want to play everyone, right? If I get there and like last time there was Shannon with his ogres and he was like, hey man, I really want to play against you. And, I always want to take on ogres with my orcs because I love, pushing their fudge in. But yeah, I mean, it's just like I'm really happy playing everyone, but especially always like if there's other people that, especially if I've been watching them or listening to them on YouTube, it's just nice to have that final link in where, okay, cool, like I've been watching Anthony's stuff for all that time, and then there he is, and I got to play a game against him. Of course, unfortunately, the game only lasted probably half an hour tops because he pretty much won in the first turn with a purple sun. But, it's still one of those things where, hey, I played against another YouTuber. So for all the rest of the guys, I don't know who can make it, but if you can, let me know. We can try and arrange something. Yeah, I guess I can make those trims white as well. This brush, it's fairly new and it's already falling apart. I have the worst luck with brushes. It's pretty ridiculous. You know, I go in and I buy something brand new, and then really right away I can start noticing there's a hair coming loose here. This is falling apart here. You know, and I feel like I take care of my brushes, but this always comes up every single time. And I mean, I already have mediocre painting skills, but when I'm trying to do detail, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, now there's a dab of color here. Guess you have to repaint this. Oh, you're repainting that. Oh, now there's a dab of another color here, and it's pretty frustrating. It's not so fun. All right, we'll try and leave that collar pink. Don't mess up. Some of the other things I've been doing is, of course, putting together more dwarves. In the last Paintisode, I was actually gluing rather than painting. And I've now put together the other gyrocopters I got and stuff like that. So actually, I'm going to be having a battle tomorrow. Just a small one, 1,500 points. But it's going to be my dwarves up against, he said he's going to bring his lizardmen. And I'm going to bring 4 gyrocopters. So we're going to see how that goes. I'm also going to try something and take no war machines. Because, to be fair, the gyrocopters really are war machines, right? They're going around and they're really taking out the masses. They can't deal with the monsters, but then again, you're in dwarves where everything is great weapons, so they can kind of deal with monsters on their own. Um, if I was worried about being against demon princes or a terrorgeist or something else like that, I might say like, you know, I might have to put in like at least one cannon just to defend myself. But especially, you know, I'm going to be up against lizardmen. I can try this out here with no war machines. And, you know, that could cost me, right? I never know. I have no idea what his lizardman army looks like. I don't believe I've ever faced him with lizardmen before. But, you know, for all I know, he's going to have Monster Mash. And all of a sudden my gyrocopters will be basically useless. And that could be pretty scary. So we'll see. That battle report will be probably going up the following day. It's also almost my brother's birthday, so I don't know if we're going to be doing a birthday game. This is something that we used to do all the time, especially when I lived in Edmonton. And really, what it usually came down to is you would make an army that it just pulls from every army. So a lot of times back then it would be 40K because that's what he really liked. And you take, you know, tanks from here and guys from here and this from here and make this composite super army that I try and face in some sort of crazy scenario. So we'll see if he's up for that too. That could be a lot of fun. What are we going to make those? Let's make that red. Oh, you know, if I was smart, I would, before I start painting, sit down and try and really work out what I'm going to make everything. But usually the only thing I do is I basically look at a model and I figure out the base. You know, like for her, I said, she's going to have a pink dress. Her base is going to be pink. And then I'll go and I'll do that, and basically all the rest is on the fly. So as I'm painting the model, I'm like, oh, what color should I make this? Or even because I haven't looked at the model closely before, I'm realizing, oh, I didn't notice you had this. Man, I guess I'm going to have to paint that too. I'm just trying to have to work things out very quickly on the fly. Luckily, she does not have a lot of extra details. She has some trim and some stuff like that, but it's really not that bad. The guy I'm going to be playing against on Thursday with her, his version looks really nice. He went and he put on like a street lamp and all this stuff, and he did light effects and all the rest of it. Yeah, not Malorian. It was kind of funny when I went to go play a game at the store yesterday. There was another fella there that he actually has a YouTube channel as well, but it's more having to do with video games, he said. But he was saying like, hey, do you do any videos talking about painting and giving any painting tips? And I just told him like, if you are looking to me for painting tips, you are in the wrong place. I am not the guy to go to for that. My painting tip is not to go to me for painting tips. That is the very best I can tell you. Words to live by. She's starting to come together here. How far are we into this? We're halfway through. She is starting to look playable. Starting to look all right. Of course, I'm probably going to go and try and do a wash or something and just totally wreck it, but... Oh, did I forget to paint her hands? I did forget to paint her hands. Oh well. Luckily, we can always come back. Which I'm going to have to do anyway because my red just screwed up because of my stupid brush. And I'll have to repaint that area. Thanks a lot. But not too bad. So yeah, otherwise, looking forward to a couple of tournaments coming up here. But while we're talking about tournaments, it looks like I am going to really try and scale back the stuff I do. Each year, I run between 5 and 6 tournaments, and then I go to a lot of tournaments as well. And especially this last year, I really upped the tournaments I went to. I mean, in the past, I would have the the basement tournament. There's the 2 onslaughts. And so really that was it. I do 3 tournaments a year, plus the one that I ran. Started running more tournaments. And then last year, not only did I start going to a lot more of the Calgary ones, because before that, I just might go to the odd one, and then I started trying to go to all the ones in Calgary. And so that really added to the number of tournaments I'm doing a year. Plus, of course, there's Brawler Bash, so I'm going off to play that one too. So, I mean, when you put this all together, man, I was just... Honestly, it's one of those things where it was just way too much time because... Remember, again, I am just a guy from Fort McMurray. I have my daughter and my son. And so if I'm only seeing them on the weekends, and then at least one weekend a month is a tournament, and a lot of times now, especially now I'm doing War Machine tournaments too, it was getting to the point where there's 2 or 3 tournaments in a month. It's just too much. So my first step is I'm going to be scaling back the tournaments I myself am running, which, people the local guys are sad to see because they like the tournaments I run, but they understand, right? I'm coming in from a different city, and, there's a couple of guys, like especially with the Battle of the Beasts, there's a couple of people that said, hey, we'll run the tournament for you. I just basically, I get a really good deal for the venue, so I can set up that or put them in the right direction. They can borrow my mats and stuff. And they're even saying they would run the tournament in my name and stuff like that. There's no need for that. I think it's awesome just the fact that they're wanting to run it. But, that's really what we need is kind of more of the local guys to pick it up. I mean, I always say that you have to support the community and do what you can if you really want to excel. I mean, really, that's why Brawlers is as big as it is, because they're doing so much work there to put in their Masters circuit and all that stuff, or GT circuit, whatever they call it. So, yeah, it's just really what you got to do if you want that stuff to be successful. But for my part, I got my family to think of, and I got to scale things back. Now, I'm still going to aim to try and get at least 1 fantasy game in a week at least. So, I mean, it's one thing for me to take off and do a game at the store, and it's quite another for me to say, yeah, I'm going to be gone this whole day or this whole weekend. So, one of the things we're looking at too is financially, this might be the last year I can make brawlers. Um, I actually looked like I might have a job. I mean, after I made these announcements to the local guys that this is the last Battle of the Beast and all this stuff, as fate would have it, I had some interviews then at the same time, and I actually got offered a job act to go home. But they did not offer. This was a pretty small time job. I mean, if I was a bachelor, no problem. I could have taken that job, and hey, I'm back in Edmonton. But I have a mortgage, I have a wife, I have 2 kids. Just not possible. But while we were looking at finances and stuff like that, that's where it became a little bit more apparent that, when in the eventuality that I do get back, and I'm probably going to be making less than half, and I'm making up here in Fort Mac, we're just going to have to tighten things in. And so the trip out to Brawler's Bash, I might have to cut that one out because that is a big chunk of change. I know before I was saying that, well, the earnings that I get from this YouTube channel kind of cover it, and it's not too bad. I'd say it covers about 2/3 of the cost, what I make from this channel in a year. So it is pretty much covered from that, but at the same time, too, when we're looking at other stuff, like having to cut cable and stuff like that, you have to kind of say, like, maybe we should be cutting out brawlers. Maybe that's the thing to do. So we'll kind of have to look at that, play it by ear. One of the other options is always maybe I could just make this channel better, right? If I get more subscribers, more views, if I start making more videos so that by default there's more views, maybe if I can cover more of the cost that way, we'll see. We'll see. The main thing is I just got to get home to the family. But enough about that stuff. Let's talk about more hobby things because, face it, that's what we all really care about here. We're not here going to a Paintisode so you can hear me whine about wanting to come home. Uh, One of the things I've been finding when I've been making lists lately is I don't know if I'm getting bored, but I always find myself adding in handicaps. I'm wanting to make a list with, like I was saying, like with this dwarf one where there's no war machines. Or I'm going to try taking no magic. Or I'm going to not take this or that. I don't know. In one side, I think it's really good because it's showing that where I always have the battle of the fun hobbyist Malorian and the killer win at all cost Malorian, that I'm going back and being a little bit more friendly. So that's good to see. But, I always just kind of hope that I'm not getting too bored of 8th. And it's one of those things, too, where maybe it is time for a new edition, right? We've been playing this for a while. Even, something that'd be really nice is just a separate set of official GW scenarios. So let's say that, right now you roll your D6 and you got your main missions there. But what if there's now like this official other book that had, let's see, I'm trying to think what would be the best way because you have to make it work with dice too. You don't want to make it, let's say it had 12 scenarios or 18, something where it's divisible by 6, so you can roll like high, low, or D3 and then a D6 type thing. But then from that, you could play from those missions. There always is the option to make up your own scenarios, but when they're official and they're from GW, they have a little bit more weight to them. So that would be nice, because I think that's the number one thing that I'm getting a little bit bored of from fantasy, is just the fact that it's the same scenario, coming up over and over again, especially because a lot of people don't like playing certain ones. So, it might come up that it's Watchtower, and the guy's like, I don't like that scenario. Oh, okay. Now let's just do Battle Line then. So a lot of times you're not getting that type of stuff. Plus, too, I'm finding that the more War Machine I do, the more I wish that fantasy was based off of zone or flag-based scenarios. So pretty much the only one that we have like that now is the Watchtower, where you actually have like a set location that you need to control. But when it comes to War Machine, the game, everything is based off of trying to control flags, trying to destroy objectives. There's always zones that you're trying to control. So really what that game does is makes it a lot more dynamic and a lot more aggressive. Because right now with most of the scenarios, there's no problem, right? It's like, well, if I really wanted to, I could run a gun line. Because especially if we're saying that, I just heard something. Got ghosts up here in Fort McMurray. But especially if you're not playing, Watchtower and stuff like that, you can just do a gun line and just hide at the back of the board, and a lot of the time that'll work just fine. In War Machine, that's never possible, right? If you stay at the back of the board, you're just going to lose. Because the other guy is just going to walk up, score, and win by a scenario. So, I think, yeah, the more that I play that, the more I wish that's the way that it played in fantasy as well. And I've tried doing that, especially whenever I do like the larger games. We're talking about like 8,000 points plus. I try and incorporate that zone type thing to really make sure the armies are coming together. We'll see. We'll see what GW does with it. One of the things that has me a little bit worried is what I'm seeing from 40K. Right now, the biggest thing you're seeing in 40K is these waves of supplements, right? So you have your main book, and then there's these supplement books. And it's not like in fantasy where it's like Blood in Badlands. And it's kind of like a secondary scenario type thing, siege rules, something like that. These are armies you can use legally. And one of the craziest ones lately is, if you haven't seen them, there's these big, really big, huge Titan type things. I can't remember what they're called, but there's a book for them so that not only can you use them in an ally in almost all the armies, you can make an army of just these big, huge, monstrous robots. And, I just really hope they don't do something like that for fantasy. At first I thought, it could be pretty cool. I mean, let's say that they made a monster book, right? And all of a sudden it works like Dogs of War, so you can take monsters in any armies you want, and then as well, you can always just make an actual monster army. They used to have a scenario that was like that. It was in the High Elf book. Oncebitten has played around with that idea a few times too. You have to go farther back. I think that's like a year and a half back now, or 2 years. But, that could be kind of cool. But at the same time, you start getting to some really weird shenanigans, and you always start seeing that these unseen loopholes start coming up. So, as much as I think it would be fun for competitive Warhammer, I'm a little bit more worried about it. So we're now at the point that we're starting to paint on the jewels and earrings and smaller details like that. So we are getting close to the end for this model anyway. We're at, 40-something minutes now, so we're doing pretty good for this. I always underestimate or how much time a model will take to paint. I first looked at this and I was like, man, I'm going to have this thing painted in like half an hour. This is going to be so easy. And when I went and I first did the first coat of pink, I was like, oh, why did I do that? Now I'm going to be painted way too early, and I'm going to be done so quick. No. There's a lot more to this than meets the eye. You know what? Now that I'm starting to see these colors together, she's not looking so much like a whore. In the beginning, where she was just all pink and all that, it looked like it, but now that I have the red on here and the white, she's almost like a naughty Mrs. Claus, which is not what she's supposed to be. And I mean, even now, like all the little buttons or rivets, whatever these things are supposed to be, I'm making them all gold, and it's almost like this little jingle bells everywhere. So, oh well. That's what you get when you're dealing with a mediocre painter like me. These things just won't really work out. She'll still look fine, but just wasn't really the first look I envisioned. Do, 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 do. For that Warhammer Weekly, that's the one that's going to be on the Long Island Wargaming with Whoopi Womp and also uh, Tyler Strauss there. They're put up a post there where they're looking for a challenge. And the one I put down, which I'm going to say here so it's more vocal, so there'll be more pressure for them to use it, using my YouTube channel for my own benefit, was actually for them. The challenge was to do a game of Core Hammer. And what the idea is with this is the whole idea where you have to kind of basically run your army off core. You get one character, which has to be a hero, and then all the rest of the points, only core. That's all you get to use. So no fancy tricks, no all the rest of it. You have to make this work with just your core guys. And, that can be really hard, especially depending on what army you're coming from. If you're doing this with the vampire counts, it's like, well, you gotta win with skeletons. Ugh. It can get pretty tough. But, it makes for some very traditional and fun Warhammer as well, right? Because you're not getting into all the silly tricks and monster mash or anything else like that. It's really just getting down to plain old Warhammer and down to basics. So really looking forward to see if they pick that one up and give that a try. I think they'll have a lot of fun with it. With that in mind, I was thinking I should probably try that again too. I came pretty close to it a way back where I did it with my dwarves, where I used a more seventh style army and just took like little blocks of 20 and stuff like that. But I said all the war machines and everything else, so I might have to try doing that. And you could cheat too, right? You could go and say, oh, okay, I'll just take one hero and a bunch of core, so I'll take Throg and a bunch of trolls. But that's not really what it's all about. So, in case you guys were thinking about that, don't. Calling you out now. Come on, Blue. I'm just trying to dot the I's. Is that so hard? Oh, those are the worst I's ever. One of the things I should really do is I know some people for the stuff like the eyes and stuff like that will actually get like the very fine tip markers and they'll use that. Ah, I actually have one right here, but it's black for writing. If there's scrolls and stuff like that. They came up a lot more whenever I was painting the 40K stuff, but I should really just get a fine one like that that has blue for blue eyes and all that stuff. It would really help. As would a new flesh. This is like the old container. I've had this for way too long, and I've remade it up with adding water way too many times as well. It is time for something new. So we'll paint your little hands, and we're getting really close here. I actually did a little bit of conversion on this model. And this is something where I talked about before too, but basically she just had a cigarette in her hand, and I just clipped it off. It's just a thing where I'm just not a really big supporter of smoking and killing yourself, so it always bugs me when it's, if it's on a model and it's an optional piece, okay. I've seen that sometimes where there's a pipe or something that you don't have to have, but it always bugs me when it's this cigar or whatever thing coming from the guy's mouth that you have to use. Especially in the mouth too, because I find with the hands it's really easy, right? You're just going to clip off one way and then clip in between the grooves and it looks fine. But when it's in the mouth, that's a touchy thing. You start trying to clip there and trying to clip across, and all of a sudden they start looking like Joker with big scars, so a little bit more difficult. Oh, I'm going to wreck your face so bad. Yeah, that blue was way too dark. I'm trying to cover it up now. Doesn't help that this paint is crap. I think I'm getting mainly oil here. So I'm more adding a sheen to my model than fixing the eyes. Oh, that's horrible. That is horrible. I need like a bat signal so that whenever I do these things and I screw up my models, I can just like flash it in the sky and Kieran Dunleavy will just like appear like, I'll save the day, and he'll paint my stuff. And so hideous. Maybe I could just transition this and try and make it look like she has horrible makeup on. I don't know. This looks so bad. It looks so bad. Because basically I did the white first, right? So I go the white across to do the eye. And I get a little bit sloppier because I know I'm going to do the pink again after the skin color. And then I just go and do a little slash for the blue for the eye. And then I just kind of have to paint around to tidy it up. But because this blue was so dark, it now looks like she was crying and her mascara's running or something like that. Oh, no. And my worry is if I keep on just, again, oil. This thing's separating. It's so old that if I put on too many layers, she's just going to look like she has squirrel cheeks. Oh, did we do it? I think that part of her is done. Just to do a little bit of touch-up now for her pink dress and pink clothes. And I think we got her. So, yeah, so it's good to have those guys doing that. The last show they did was really funny. You know, it's good to have it where they kept it really lighthearted and all the rest of it. This is talking about that Warhammer Weekly again. And, and that's what you need to do. You need to have fun with it, keep it entertaining. Because if you're going to talk that long, geez, look at that little... Anyway, you have to keep it entertaining and fun. So good to see that's, a really good start for them. So close. I learned last time that I can paint while talking. I can't do detail while talking. I just screw up really badly if I ever try and do that. But on other Warhammer podcasts, it was good to see that the Dwellers Below, that they're back again. They had, they keep on scaring me. They do a show, and then it's a long time until the next one. So I'm always left wondering, like, oh no, is that it? Are they done? But they're actually, we're announcing their tournament. And I was thinking, man, it'd be nice to go to one of these. But, of course, they're off there and opposite side of the world type thing. So that's not going to happen. But, again, I would say now, out of all the podcasts, yeah, it's always tough because there's also a local podcast. So I always try and wonder if I'm biased towards it. So probably the two fantasy podcasts I really listen to now with any regularity is the Dwellers Below and Jaded Gamercast. Jaded Gamercast is based out of here between Edmonton and Calgary, so I always wonder if I'm a little bit more biased to liking them just because I know them and all the rest of it. But whereas Jaded Gamercast, I mean, it's almost hard calling them a fantasy podcast because they talk about 40K, they talk about Firestorm Armada, whereas Dwellers Below is just fantasy. So I guess for pure fantasy, definitely they're my number one pick. They're Nick Chantilly or whatever, or Gentili, he's just hilarious. I always love hearing him joking around and oh yeah and all this stuff. It'll just be great. I mean, I used to be listening to the Black Sun. And I found them really amusing and all the rest of it, but they were just too infrequent with their podcasts. So you kind of lose interest when they don't post a show for several months. And plus, too, I found a lot of times that, especially for theirs, whenever I went to the Black Sun, I'd have the flashing saying that there was malicious content and all the rest of it. So you know, as much as I might want to listen to the show, I don't want to get some virus or something on my computer. So it's too bad, you know. I used to listen to them all the time, to their antics, but it's been a little long time now. Hell, I don't even know if they're even still running a podcast. For all I know, they kind of, that's gone. But hey, there's another thing we can make comments on there for. If you guys have a favorite fantasy podcast to listen to, feel free to post it down. It almost seems like they're actually fairly limited now. There's not really much out there. Whereas, say, for War Machine, there's a lot of War Machine podcasts out there. It's to the point that there's so many good War Machine podcasts, I have to trim some from the schedule of what I watch just because I don't have any room, right? What do I still have to do? Am I done you? Looking for details missed. Oh, I could do a little bit more right there. But, yeah, there's a lot of really nice ones there. Putting out content like podcasts, obviously, and then they're also doing YouTube things as well. So it would be really nice if there was more of that presence from the fantasy side of it as well. I don't know really why. I mean, maybe like I was saying, like how 8th is getting into the point where, okay, it's probably time for a new book and all the rest of it. Maybe that's it. But are you done? Please tell me you're done. I kind of screwed up the back there. But as it is anyway, I don't really have that much time for podcasts because I can listen to those when I'm driving back and forth from Fort McMurray. But man, the YouTube stuff, I am definitely subscribed to too much YouTube right now. I just can never keep up. And a lot of times I just have to let one slide. It's like, well, I'm 8 videos behind. Screw it. I'm just going to watch the most recent rather than what's back there. So it's unfortunate because there's a lot of really good stuff out there for YouTube channels. Like I said, there's not a lot of podcasts for fantasy. But, and I mean, people are going to correct me, and now that I say that, I can think of several others. But they just don't really seem to be, there's that comedy aspect, right? Where a lot of the ones out there, say like Heel and Hammer. If you want to get something that's really competitive talk, you can listen to Heel and Hammer. However, I find that listening to them, I mean, it's not as entertaining. So, when I am in those modes of like ultra win at all cost type mode, and I want to win a tournament, I can like that stuff. But even then, because they deal with ETC and high comp, whereas they're not comp here, that doesn't really transfer over. And that goes for a lot of the other podcasts as well. They'll talk about how they did this and how this fits in Swedish comp and how this deals with that comp. It just means nothing to me because I don't deal with comp. Whereas in War Machine, there is no comp. I mean, everything is very well balanced for the most part, and there is no comp. So no matter where I'm listening to a War Machine podcast, it's all very relevant. So I think I'm done. Well, I can't post a picture of this after because it won't show. I can kind of do my best to show you what's going on. Get my head out of the picture. Focus. Focus. Oh, there's a little bit. So there's how she ended up. A little bit more Christmassy than I anticipated, but not too bad. So, as always, thanks for listening during my ramblings of the Paintisode. Hopefully, you're able to get some stuff done. Stuff I'd love to hear in the comments on down below is what you guys were painting while you were listening to this. Always like hearing that. And also the ideas, right? What should I make Oncebitten? What should I do there? Should I convert something? And what should it be for what army? So there you have it. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you later. Bye.